Hey, if you want to know what's going on in the South Florida real estate market, you are on a great video. We are going to talk about exactly what's going on in the first and into the second quarter 2025 South Florida. If you want to know what's happening, keep watching. Every day I'm having conversation about what's going on in the real estate market here in South Florida. Some people are thinking about buying, some people are thinking about selling, some people just like to know what's going on in the real estate market. No matter what, I love to talk about it, and that's exactly what we're gonna dive in today. We're gonna look at the real estate market in South Florida, specifically Palm Beach County, so far in 2025, what we're seeing and the trends that are happening. So whether you're thinking about buying, selling, or just wanna know what the hell is going on, that's what we're gonna hit today. My name is Andy Johnson. I'm with the Andy Johnson Group. If you've never checked out one of our videos, you may want to subscribe or ring that bell so you can get notified when we post new content if you're interested in what's happening in South Florida. We are going to dive in and segment this video today, just so you know, in different contexts as far as breaking up the market, single family homes, condos. We're gonna look at it overall. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna talk to you about what the luxury market looks like and why that's a little bit different. We're also gonna dive a little bit into why I believe these things are happening and what could be coming. So to start off with, we are going to look at the snapshot of Palm Beach County. Again, we work in Broward, St. Lucie, Martin, but I think looking at individual segments works a little bit better. If you ever want me to tell you kind of what's going on specifically with numbers in those counties, I can absolutely do it. And I do have my handy charts and graphs here too, which I am happy to share with you as well. So if you want these actually so that you can review them, by all means, we can do that too. So what did the market look like? What does this quarter, first and second quarter look like versus last year? So number one, looking in Palm Beach County, condo, single family, townhouses, everything, we have almost 31% more homes on the market than we did first quarter last year. We had 8.7, almost 9% less properties that were sold, and we had about 7.2% less properties go under contract. So listen, folks, if you're trying to sell a home right now, those are not the numbers that you want to hear. If you're thinking about buying, that's exactly what you want to hear. And you know, if you're just getting the news, well, you're just getting the news, but that's what we're seeing. When we look specifically at month over month, so what happened from one month to the next, we haven't seen that big of changes. The market inventory actually went down by 0.1%, but we did see less sales, less properties actually closed at 1.1% less, and then the number of pending properties under contract changed by 6.1%. There were 6.1% less properties going under contract, and so that's what we saw. It is very important, and we are going to break this up into single family homes and price ranges and condos because it gives us a better snapshot of what we're seeing overall. But just to give you all an idea, if we're looking at the overall market right now and just looking at it as a whole, we currently have a 6.7% month supply of inventory on the market. What does that mean? That means that if people stop buying homes today, we basically have enough supply based on demand today to last 6.7 months. 6 months or more is definitely in a buyer's market. So you've got an idea of what's going on there. Now, I'm gonna move into condos and what that looks like. If you're thinking about a single family home, we're gonna talk about that next. If you specifically want a townhouse, you gotta reach out to me separately because otherwise this video is going to be an hour and you don't wanna listen to me for that long. So let's dive into condos. All right, so condos in South Florida have really been experiencing a lot of changes over the last couple years with the condo collapse that happened down south, with changes in insurance requirements and coverage there, with the buildings or condos now having to fully fund reserves. What we've seen happen is a lot of monthly condo association fees go up, double, triple, because they needed to, and that's what had to happen, and that's what's happening with the law. If you read news, if you go right now and you Google condos, South Florida, condos, Palm Beach County, the news is atrocious. It's horrible. It makes it look like every condo is failing, and it could be, and nothing could be farther from the truth. But that's what people are seeing, and we are absolutely seeing condos sit on the market longer than they were before. We're seeing condos go for less prices, or for lower prices, excuse me. So we are in a transitional part of year with condos. Our market looks like basically in January, you know, we're gonna start at X kind of inventory. wherever it may be. And our market's going to go down like this with inventory through February, March, April. May is typically when it's going to bottom out inventory wise, and then we're going to climb for the rest of the year. So let me give you an example, because this is what's important. So if I actually look at the end of April, we had 9.7 months of inventory on the market, all right? But if I look at the end of April in 2024, we had only 6 months of inventory. So you can see we've had a pretty big jump in inventory in only a year. And if we go to kind of the peak, which I told you, we had 13.2 months of inventory on the market. So if this trend continues in Palm Beach County, we could easily see 20 months of inventory of condos in Palm Beach County. And what's crazy, if you look at our MLS as a whole, which includes St. Lucie, Miami, Broward, all these other places, we actually have over a 20-month supply of condos right now. So you really do have to break this down into where you're looking to get a true snapshot of what's going on. From last quarter to this quarter, we have 25.6% more inventory than we did. We had 14% less sales, and we had 13.5% less properties go under contract. Again, if you're looking to buy a condo, this is great, right? This means that sellers are a little bit, or maybe a lot bit more desperate or aggressive, or whatever the word you want to use, adjective to describe, to get rid of their properties and sell it if they have to, right? And that's the key. Do they have to get rid of it, or is it a choice? When people have to get rid of something, and we're seeing numbers like this, that's when you can start to see things changing. And the truth is, right now, I think some sellers are starting to feel that fear of, well, if I don't sell my condo now, if I wait 6 months, is it going to be a little bit worse? Now, the flip side of that is you've then got buyers going, well, should I buy a condo now, or 6 months from now, is that property going to be worth less? I'm going to tell you right now, folks, that's a really, really tough and dangerous game to play. Recently the markets, if you would have bought on the dip when people were freaking out, you would have made some good money really fast, right? And this isn't a political statement, but everybody then kind of freezes up and they want to wait and see how low it goes, and then bam, the market was right back up there. If you're looking to purchase Florida or real estate in South Florida, obviously it depends what you're doing. Are you trying to purchase something that you're going to use? Is this an investment? Are you trying to do a quick flip? But if you're looking for something that you're going to use, and this is a long-term hold for you, trying to time that very bottom of the market can be very difficult, and hopping in and take advantage when you know prices are softer is a great thing to do. Again, if we look month over month like we did before, we had a 0.9% drop, almost a 1% drop in inventory, but we did have 3% less sales and 8.5% less properties go under contract with condos month over month. As I said, currently, for the first quarter, we saw a 25.6% increase in condos. And what I want to do now is I'm going to move specifically to condos over $2 million. In South Florida, 2 million is going to kind of be entering that luxury market at this point. Condos, maybe it's a little bit less, 1.5, but really we got to get into that 2 million to 3 million plus to really start to get into luxury condos anymore. That is just what this market bears now. And what we see is there is actually less condos, there's less inventory once we get into that higher price range. There was 21% more inventory. However, in the first quarter this year, sales were up 19.8%. If you remember when we were looking at the market as a whole, they were actually down. If we're looking at pending properties in the first quarter were up 32%. Again, remember, if you look at condos as a whole, they're down. Folks, what you're going to see, and especially when I show you the kind of upper echelon luxury market later on, is the numbers are not the same. So the area where you're buying, the price point that you're buying in, and the type of property you're considering all need to come into play when you're making a decision about what you're doing right now. So I want to move over from that. We're going to hop into single family homes and kind of look at what that is. All right, so single family homes snapshot. Again, this is single family homes, no price restrictions, Palm Beach County only, okay? So if we're looking at just the quarter, and what we'll see is these numbers are kind of similar to what we're seeing in condos. In the first quarter, we had a 32.2% increase. However, sales were only down 3%. I believe they were about 8% with condos. And the pending transactions were only down 2.5%. So things are looking a little bit more sunny, if you will, for single family homes. We also only have a 5-month supply of single family homes. It was worse with condos. And if we look at last year, it was at 3.3. So we haven't seen the percentage increase with single family homes. And we're still almost really in a flex market for buyer versus seller's market. However, we are definitely trending to a buyer's market. And again, those single family homes, if we follow the trends of previous years, that inventory is going to slowly increase throughout the rest of the year. Single family homes have not been experiencing the same challenges that condo have. And let's just talk about this now. One of the biggest reasons that inventory has increased in Florida is due to the cost of ownership. Now we can break that down in a little bit of what those different things are, but the cost of ownership is really what is driving all of this. And the cost of ownership in condos in a lot of ways has become worse than the cost of ownership with single family homes, which may be one of the reasons that we're seeing that. Bad press can be another. And I think another big part is who's buying condos versus who is buying single family homes. So let's move to the same thing what I just did before, and we're going to check this out, and we're now going to $2 million plus, okay? So single family homes, first quarter, inventory only went up 23.7%. That's almost 10% less than homes that were, when we include all of them. The number of solds didn't change. It stayed exactly the same. Pending properties actually dropped 9.8%. So we can see a couple differences there. And then if we look at the months of inventory on this, the months of inventory right now for these, there's actually more. We're gonna have 9.1%. I'm looking at this real time with you guys, so I'm seeing kind of the same thing. That number actually surprises me. I thought there was a lower number than that, but I want to jump up, and this is what we're going to look at last when we're in here, and then kind of talk about why I think we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing. So let's check this out. Okay, so this was the last thing that I told you about from a data standpoint that I wanted to touch on a little bit more, and that is looking at homes and condos, our market as a whole in Palm Beach County at $5 million or more. What does that look like? How does it change? So inventory up 17.2%. Obviously that's an increase in inventory, but however, it's less than any of the other things that we've talked about. The number of sales are actually up from last year, 31%, and pending sales are up 9.9%. As a matter of fact, the last month, this is so crazy, last month, if we look month over month, the number of properties that sold from one year to the next were up 105%, all right, folks? Now, one of the reasons that may be happening is we're seeing individuals with more cash or more cash in the markets starting to place that into what they consider maybe a safer bet, which would be South Florida real estate. Maybe they feel like it's a good time to take advantage and hedge their money somewhere. Maybe they're just ready to have more fun. It depends on the individual, and they'd much rather have a place to come down to rather than just having sit in stock. Who knows? But here's the bottom line, folks. This is what's driving our market right now, kind of across the board. And I mentioned that before. It is going to be affordability down here. And what does that look like, and why is it happening? Affordability, number one, is due to just the price increases that we saw as a result of people moving to South Florida during COVID and after, because people just want to be in South Florida and because it's just an amazing place to live, right? That affordability or the cost of homes was driven up, and we've not really seen those drive back. As a result of that happening, the amount of, from a monthly standpoint, cash on cash that you have to spend in property taxes increased, right? When you could buy a house for $500,000, let's just use easy math, our taxes at 2%, that was a $10,000 bill. Well, now that same house is $1 million and your tax bill is $20,000 a year. Another big one down here is insurance. With companies leaving South Florida and giving less options to Floridians, which is what happened previously, we saw the cost of our insurance increase dramatically. There are actually quite a few condos that are having a hard time even getting full insurance until they make some of the changes that are being required by all these tests that they're having to do, again, that came from after the Miami collapse. Another thing that is happening right now is just the sense today of insecurity that everyone is feeling about what is happening in the market. Where is the South Florida market going? Where is the stock market going, right? The truth is a lot of buyers that we're seeing, and this is just as honest can be. Buyers have very little motivation a lot of the time right now, right? Because buyers feel like they're not going to miss out on an amazing interest rate, because interest rates are at about 6.8% on a 30-year conforming conventional. They're not afraid that they're getting ready to have to pay more for a house because they feel like the market's sliding. It may or may not be right there, depending on what they're looking for, right? And they don't feel like if they don't offer on this particular property that they're going to miss out because there's nothing else out there, because there's a lot of inventory. So there's a real lack of motivation among buyers. We're seeing buyers ask for a lot more things during inspections. They can, it's just the tables have flipped, right? During COVID, the sellers could get anything and everything that they wanted. And the truth is now the buyers have a lot more power than they used to. And that's what we're seeing. Another thing that's changed is we're seeing, specifically in South Florida, we're seeing with the increased cost, people looking at other areas where maybe they want a second home, because we're a big second home destination. And now they're considering places like North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. The problem with all of these places inherently, to me, is so many people are coming down here for a second home from the Northeast, right? So you're going to be in New York or New Jersey or wherever the heck you are up there. It's winter, it's cold, and then you're going to live in Georgia and it's still freaking cold. I don't get that, right? So, okay, maybe where you are it's 0 and in Georgia it's 45. That doesn't make sense to me. Truthfully, even northern Florida, places like Jacksonville, when it's cold, it can be in the 30s up there, right? They get snow up there. So you have to come down to South Florida, and that's what we're still seeing happen for a lot of people. But that's one of the reasons. Another thing right now is people from other countries, with what is currently going on in our political climate, are choosing to not come or choosing to potentially sell their property and leave, which is putting more inventory on the market. And all of those things are coming together to create more inventory and less demand, which is a pretty simple economic situation of supply and demand that we're all familiar with, right? The more supply, the less demand, the lower the price. Right? That's what has to happen. And that's what we're seeing to an extent, but it is not a fire sale situation. And again, if you're wanting to jump in on this, I've been selling real estate in South Florida for over a decade. And if I could tell you the number of people that told me, man, I should have bought I should have bought and then they didn't, and they watched, and then they just get priced right out of the market. Folks, you strike when the iron's hot. You get in when you can get a good deal, and there are a lot of good deals out there, especially if you're willing to do some work on a property. That's a completely different video though. Bottom line though, we are absolutely here to help you. If you have any questions, anything else about what's going on in the market right now, or you want something more specific about an area, you want me to break it down to just Jupiter, Hobe Sound, you want to know about Broward as a county, you want to know about what's going on farther north, you want to know a specific neighborhood, I can do that for you. Maybe you don't know what you're looking for and you want to know the options. You want a single family, you want to live in a country club, you want to live in a condo on the beach, we'll help you do that as well. Anything you need, we're here to help. I truly appreciate you watching the video. If you didn't do it before, again, ring that bell and make sure that you get notified when we post this stuff, so you can always know about what's going on and you can get the best deal that you can possibly get, whether you are buying or selling. Thanks for checking out the video today.